It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Not really, as I look out the window. No snow in Wisconsin yet, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be working on Christmas stuff. You don't want to get overly last minute with your Christmas things. What I've got going here is, I think they're pretty cool. We're going to make a Christmas tree. I'm going to show you how to make these, and I have spec'd for you these ornaments. I'm going to zoom you in on those in a second, but if you just want to use ornaments you have, that's okay too. I'll talk more about that in a second. But even though we're only, I don't even know what day today is, like the 19th, something like that. I don't know. We're a little more than a month away from Christmas, but that is still enough time for you to do this. So I'll take you through the process. One thing that's really, 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 really important is that, as we often do with these things, we have a plan, Stan, and maybe more so for this than a lot of other projects, you need this, because there's a lot of information about creating these cutouts included in this. And I'm going to, before we launch into the project, a couple of nods I need to give. So one, Jess, who you never see, is running the board. She's doing the intelligent part of this whole job, making sure that whatever I do and say is finding its way to you. Additionally, Greg, who you will never see, is the person who does these PDFs. I provide a bunch of information that's as scatterbrained as can be, and then Greg collates it all. One of the things that Greg knew that I did not, and it's really critical to this, is that when you print this out and you look at your printer settings, there's going to be a box you can check that says print actual size or something like that. Check that box. Because when you get, I'm going to switch cameras for you here. When you get the templates being, hold please, these. So those egg-shaped ovals are what create the holes that the ornaments go into. In my experience on my printer, if you don't check that box that says print actual size, then those ovals won't be the right size, and it's going to lay out funny on your tree. So kudos to Greg for being, find people who are good at what they do and use them. And thankfully, Greg is very good at what he does. And it was him that figured out the whole printer aspect of this. So when you have a chance, get the PDF. You don't have to print the whole thing out. You can read the directions on your computer, but you at least got to print out the pages that have the templates on them. So one template is going to give you the shape for these and also going to help you orient them. More on that in a bit. The other template provides you with the oval for the base. This one isn't as critical. If the oval ended up a little too big or a little too small, we'd be fine. But these, in order for these ornaments to fit correctly in this hole, you really want to get these right. So let me give you a bunch of options. Here I have, in my hot little hands, two versions of this. The one on the right is in curly maple. The one on the left is in poplar. This one's obviously just painted. This one's clear finished. For me, I think what's pretty cool about this project is that the parts you need are not big. These dimensions are all in the packet. You don't need a lot of material to make this. So this is a great opportunity to use some highly figured wood and let that grain really pop. That's one example of that. That's curly maple. Here's another example. That is ambrosia maple. Remember, it's ambrosia beetles that create ambrosia maple. So again, one option here is to find those chunks of really cool looking stuff you've been sitting on since forever and use them to make your tree or trees. But I also wanted to show you what, if you don't want to do that, this is poplar. Poplar paints really, really, really well. And then just a rattle can of green from a hardware store is what this was finished with. So that's another option. A third one that I'll show you that you'll see in a sec is this. This is also poplar. That's green dye instead of green paint. It's literally just RIT, R-I-T, green dye. And I learned this when, if you go look at videos, we did a bunch of stuff with Alicia Albertson, who Pneumatic Addict is her channel. And when Alicia was here, she taught me a lot about coloring wood. And one of the things is, yes, you can use RIT dye as a dye to color wood. So this is literally just RIT dye from a grocery store that's on this one with the base painted black. So I wanted to show you this up front so that you're not, like, in your head, you're not limiting yourself to the idea of, oh, I have to have green wood or I have to have figured wood. You don't. The ones that we're going to work on, as always with these things, I get material ready ahead of time. And that's just number 2 pine that I'm going to be messing with today on the live stream. So a lot of options here as far as material goes. And like I said, the parts we need are not big. So a great opportunity to use something cool, or go to a Rockler or Woodcraft store or some other supplier and get something that looks cool for this project. So first, I'm going to double check, see if any questions have popped so far. How's everyone doing? And I do also want to, I'm going to say hello to, I'm just recently back from the UK, like 2 days back from the UK. So if you've not seen it, if you're not aware of it, we do these trips overseas. We being WWGOA, and the company that owns WWGOA arranges these trips to go places. And the one that we just did was to Scotland and Northern England. And we actually, the bullseye of that was a woodworking show in Northern England. So hello to the 17 people who went to Scotland and Northern England and took part in that trip. It was a blast. The weather was not great. It was typical English weather, about 50 degrees and raining, but we saw some amazing stuff. So if you're interested, there's another one of those trips coming up in March, going to Germany. The bullseye of that show is a huge woodworking show. I believe that Germany show gets about 50,000 attendees, and we're going to be at it for 2 days. Lots and lots and lots of stuff to see there, plus a bunch of other aspects to that trip. So hello to, and I'm not going to name names because I'm going to forget somebody, but just hello to anybody who was on the trip. And here we are. Let's make a tree. Step 1, if you started late, you got to have the PDF. All the dimensions you need are in the PDF. Then, using the dimensions in the PDF, make yourself a tree. So it's just a big triangle. This is really the easy part of this. The dimension across the bottom and the height are given. So using that information, cut yourself a thing that looks like a tree. Now, more critical is once you have that triangle, then there's a sheet in your packet that's going to tell you what to do next. That sheet is the one that looks like this. So I am currently on page 3. What this information is the distance from the bottom of the tree to the bottom of the cutout. Bottom of the tree to the cutout, bottom of the tree to the cutout. On my piece of pine, that's what those lines are. So this is easy. Measure up, make a line, measure up, make a line, connect the dots. Now we know the bottom of the oval. So that's one layout aspect you need to do. Then, and again, kudos to Greg for getting this all to work on this PDF. On this page, on page 4, this information is what we need to know in order to get this oval located left to right. And one of the things we want to do is keep the center axis of the oval perpendicular on the tree. And I'm making it sound more complex than it really is. It's going to be simple when you see how I do this. So what you'll need is a center line going up the tree. This dimension, 3 1/4, is the distance from the center line of the tree to the center of the oval. And then same, there's another measurement there. There's another measurement there. So the way that works, when you look at mine, I think that first one was 3 1/4 from the center line of the tree. That goes all the way to the tip. Measure over, make a line, measure over, make a line, connect the dots. And then the way that's going to get used in a second is from your PDF, cut out the oval, and we want to get fairly close to the bottom of it with your scissors. And then when this goes on your work, the bottom of the oval is going to go on the horizontal pencil line. And then I've given you the center axis. That's going to go on that vertical layout line. Let me stick this one down. I'm going to do this with spray adhesive. You've seen me use this stuff a gazillion times. And then I'll show you what that orientation looks like, what we're actually making happen here. So bottom of the oval on the horizontal line, center axis on the paper, on the center axis on the wood. Stick that down so that it looks like that. And of course, we'll do that again here and do that again here. But what's important out of this is that because this is round, not egg-shaped, that we keep it vertical. And if you look over here, just like on the hero trees I've already got done, the circle runs out of the tree. It's open on this side. So this left to right layout keeps it plumb and also gets you oriented correctly so that we have this little cutout here when we're done. I'm going to jump back to the other camera and look for questions before I move on. Like I said, I think I'm probably fire hosing information out and making this sound more complicated than it really is. But when you have the template in front of you, the templates, then I think this will make more sense. The other thing, when you look at the packet, if you're a CNC person or you own a Shaper Origin or all of the above, whatever, as I do when I can, I did this on the pumpkin project and I did this on something else. The DXF file for this shape is included with the PDF as a link. So if you're a CNC person, or one of the things that was interesting with the pumpkins is somebody used that file with their laser to put the shapes on the pumpkin so that they could then cut it out with a jigsaw, just like I showed in that live stream. So same, you could laser all the layout lines on here and then go back to cutting it with a bandsaw or a Saber's jigsaw or whatever you're going to do. Okay, a couple things. John says, can the plans be scaled up or down? You sure could. So you've got the dimension. So maybe what one could do with that is the PDF, as we're providing it, prints on 8.5 by 11. I think if you wanted to scale it up, you could take it to Kinko's or a place like that where they can print on a bigger format and ask them to up that print 10%, 25%, 50%, whatever you're trying to do. The tree part is easy. So it's 12 across the bottom, 22 high. If you want a bigger tree, just add to those dimensions. And I guess what you could do then is you could make a bigger tree, keep the ovals the same size, because those work with the ornaments, right? And then you're probably going to have more than 3 cutouts if you make the tree bigger. So you could just mess with printing the oval templates, the cutout templates, the size they are, and then just set them on your new tree, the bigger tree, and maybe instead of 3, you want 6 or 5 or 7 or something. I'm told odd numbers are feng shui. No say. It's I'll buy it, I guess. But when I did one of these, and I will say I did one of these with 4 cutouts, and it didn't look as good as the one with 3 cutouts. So there might be something about that. Mark says, I think a good option would be to make your own ornament frame and place pictures in it. Oh, I like that idea. So instead of this is a pretty cool idea. Instead of the ornaments, like I've got in all of these, you make a round or oval frame. These are, I think, 2 1/4. So I'll measure them. So you make a frame that's that size, and then you put somebody's picture in. You put family pictures in there. That's pretty cool. William asks, where can we find info about the Germany trip? Jess, can you find that? If you, I know the Germany trip is on Craft Tours, which I think is just crafttours.com. And then on the left, there'll be a drop-down menu that takes you to woodworking. And then William, if Jess can find it on Craft Tours site, she'll put it in the chat roll here for you. All right. That seems to be the end of the question. So it takes us to a point in our process where you're going to cut out the tree, add the layout lines from the PDF, stick on all 3 of these. For the sake of time, I'm only doing the one. Stick on all 3 ovals. Then we're ready for 2 things. And I'm going to come to this other camera. One of the things you'll see on these templates is a little crosshairs right above the oval. That's where the hole for the ornament hanger goes. Then we'll be ready to cut this. So let me get you to where you can see not just better, but way more better. And again, what we're looking at here is there's that crosshair I just mentioned, and we're going to cut the oval out. So with that crosshair, this is simple. Give it your all. Grab a scratch awl and just dimple that. Like that. That's done. Then I'll move the camera for you in a sec. Let's not cut into the bench. That's just me. All right. Then bandsaw, jigsaw. I'm saving a trip to the bandsaw by doing this here. Cut inside the line because you're going to want to go back and sand this. Just like that. So repeat that process here, here, where am I? And then up there. Then skipping ahead so that you don't have to watch every second of the build. This is like a cooking show. The cake goes in the oven and then look, the cake is done. Same concept. On this one, also pine, just like the one I just cut out. Cut this, sanded it, cut it, sanded it, cut it, sanded it. Then in your instructions, it says, use a router bit, and ease these edges, not the bottom edge. So with this one, you can just sand that a little bit in order to take off the sharp corner. But here, on all these other spots, I did a 1/4 inch round over. We want to do that next. Then remember that we put a dimple in there that's going to create the hanger hole, that's locating the hanger hole. That's right there. So we're going to drill a small hole. Oop, wrong bit. We're going to drill a small hole right there. Times 3. Then at this stage, we're pretty far along. We're pretty well set to go on this. And now there are a couple options. If you like this, whoops, wrong one. If you like this, so two-tone, then before you put that together, you're going to want to take the time to add the color to the tree and then also add the color to the base so that that work is done pre-assembly. That way, we don't get black on the green and green on the black if you're trying to finish this after the fact. If instead you like contiguous color, so this one, everything is clear coated, or this one, everything is green, then if you like either of those, you're ready to assemble, which I'm going to do next. If you want them bicolored Python, then totally unrelated. If you want them bicolored, color this, then assemble. So to assemble, here's what we're going to do. Am I making you dizzy with all these cameras? We've got the oval. And what I need from that is the center. I'm going to mark the center of the oval. Bloop, bloop. And then I've got a tree, which is ready for assembly. So that means the round over is done, the holes are drilled, this is completely sanded. The insides of the ovals, the edges, everything is sanded. On the bottom of this, I'm going to mark the center. Both faces. And then I've got a hash mark right there. I'm sorry, but I'm sure it's hard for you to see. But there's a center line and a center line, a center line and a center line. I'm going to line those up. Those are telling me that I'm centered this way. Once I have that, then I'm orienting the tree on the base so that when you look at it that way, it's centered down the oval. Then draw a line, draw a line. So that shows me where the tree lives. Then coming from this side, the top face, I'm going to drill a hole. And drill a hole. And this step, I guess that drill bit is bent, huh? This step is only being done to transfer the holes to the other side. Because now I know exactly where those holes live relative to this face. Then We're going to clamp it, Jed. So what I'll do, if you're waiting to get a question answered, just give me one more little bit here. Whoops. And then I'll look for questions again. So now I just get back on the lines I created in step 1. Put this together. And then your best bet is clamping like that. And with the clamp in place, then I can drill these other holes. I'm going to take advantage of that cutout to do another clamp on this side. Zoom me out a little bit. And then you can do a double check before you drill. Am I still on my pencil lines? I am. I can see the holes coming through the bottom that I created previously. So now I can finish this by coming this way. And I'm countersinking for the head of the screw this way. And then what you'd want to do, and I'm skipping for the sake of time here, is take this apart, sand off those pencil lines, especially if you're painting. Let me do this and then I'll go back to that. Momentito. Okay. So there are a couple of ifs. If you're painting this, you can do the sequence I just did, which is we've got layout lines on the base. We put everything together. I drove the screws. No glue necessary for this project. Then we can take the clamps off, and because you're painting, the paint is going to cover those existing pencil lines. If you're staining or clear coating, you want to do all of this work so you know where the screw holes live. Then take this apart, sand off the pencil lines, then put it back together so that we don't have pencil lines in the finished project. Okay. Let me look for questions. And I think I say this often, but I'm going to say it again anyway. This is probably a great example of make more than one of these, because I've had a lot of people look at this and really love this project. And it's a simple thing to make, but it's simpler to make if you just scale, if you're just doing 4 of them at a time instead of 1 at a time, rather than going back and repeating. All right, so William, Jess found the Germany trip. That link is in the chat roll. Ivan said, can this be worked on pre-made resin/wood boards? So I guess, I mean, I don't know that the wood matters. So it'd be a little interesting because you can color resin. It would more than a little. It would be very interesting to, I could see playing this a couple ways. So one, and as much as I use resin, I'm a little surprised I didn't think of this. What you could do is make this tree, and then you could use a tabletop epoxy and add color to this. So imagine maybe we leave it pine, but then you use, natural. We'll leave it the color it is right now. And then with tabletop epoxy, you go over it and create like red stripes, like garland on the tree. Or we do something like this that I talked about, green dye. Then this has a top coat on it. It's got rattle can lacquer on it. You'd have to scuff sand that, but same. Now you could take tabletop epoxy, then you could add accents to this to look like garland, or you could create a whole board in a form that the epoxy is part of, and then come back and do this. So to answer your question, Ivan, yes, I think that I think incorporating epoxy into this would be a pretty cool touch. There's a lot you could do there. It'd be worth experimenting with. So Robert says, couldn't the ovals just be cut with a hole saw? They'd be rounded, not oval. Great question. So here's what you should know. This is a pretty simple looking project. It took me about a day and a half, a little more than that actually, to get to the first one of these looking okay. So that starts with, for me, I use SketchUp. From SketchUp, I make a couple. So to answer the question about round instead of oval, the first ones I did were, the cutouts were round. And it's weird. Like I'm not sure about why the aesthetic is what the aesthetic is, but my brain said, well, ornaments are round, let's make the cutout round. And then I was thinking the same as you. You could punch a hole with a hole saw just a little bit off center, still get this cutout and hang the ornament in there. The round looks not as good as the oval. I'm not going to say necessarily crappy, but the oval looks way better. So in the development of even these simple projects, I made, I think, 6 trees in MDF before I got to what you're seeing here that looks okay. And so a lot of development. If you want to try it, you know, you could do the same thing, cut the tree out of some piece of scrap and then try it with maybe a 3-inch hole saw would give you about the scale that you need for these ornaments. But my guess would be that the visual on this is that because the tree is so vertical, it's a tall, skinny thing, that having the ovals, which also align with that vertical, rather than circles, is what makes the ovals look better. But I'm not a great design person, so that's my theory. But I'm not 100% sure if it's right. But like I said, I experimented with rounds because either Forstner bit or hole saw would have been a lot easier to do than hand cutting these, but it doesn't look as good. And then the question of the clamp I used when I cut the first oval. So this is a Craig product. It's a hold down. I think if you Google, because that's a verb now, I think if you Google Craig hold down, you'll find this. It's auto adjust, which means whether I have something here that's 1/2 inch thick, 3/4 inch thick, 1 inch thick, it's going to auto adjust to that thickness change. This is also a Craig track I have in the bench. That screw fits in that track. So when I'm assembling pocket holes in face frames for cabinets, this is how I do it at this bench, is I clamp them to the surface, run the screws into the pocket holes. Very, very handy to have. Gregory says, hi, and thanks for a great introductory class on the Shaper Origin, Connecticut. Best wishes to you and your family for the holidays. Thank you. That whole Connecticut series of classes went really, really well. That was a blast. Herb says he made the large pumpkin. Several neighbors wanted one. I always warn you, make multiples. So I guess the tree is next. Cool little project. I like the idea of the family pictures. William says, thanks for the project. Thanks to Mark for the idea about pictures and frames for ornaments. Herb says, a suggestion, can you have a place that folks can upload pictures of modification to the plan to give us all ideas. So yeah, so Jess, that's an interesting idea. So I don't run the website. People way smarter than me do that. But like a community forum kind of a thing where people could follow up to this interactively would be cool. I like that. Okay, caught up on preguntas hoy, but we have to put ornaments on. So I did. I'm going to leave this here. If I seem scattered today, it's only because I am. I barely know what day of the week it is. We just got back from the UK on Monday, and I did not know today was Thursday. Like, I knew I had 2 live streams today, but I barely know what time it is and what day of the week it is. So this is fun. On the what in the plan, I have sourced for you these prismatic ornaments. I think these are crazy cool. I love the idea that one of these trees is going to live on a windowsill. And I'm here to tell you that when the light comes through these, it throws light all over. They're prismatic, that's hence the word. So these are sourced for you in the PDF. If you like these, you can get them. Recognizing that not everybody necessarily is going to dig the glass, you're entitled to your opinion, even if you're wrong. I also then did this. So these are more just standard, everyday, run-of-the-mill ornaments. If you're substituting, you're going to want to make sure they fit in the opening. So I said earlier I would measure these. 2 1/4. The diameter on these is 2 1/4. That gives you an idea of the scale that you need to stick with so that they look okay in the ovals. And then same with the prisms. They're also 2 1/4. So, and then again, aesthetic, 3 ornaments that match, or what I'm going to do, sorry for walking in front of the camera, is 3 ornaments that don't match. The key to hanging them is floral wire. I'm going to get against it there. Can you see it? There you go. Very, very thin wire, very malleable, easy to work with. That works great for this. So cut yourself a piece of that floral wire that's maybe 3 inches long. That's way more than you need, but that makes it easier to work with. Oops. Then we're going to do this tree. And the way I'll do this is what's going to be the back when I'm done. So if I come up here, there's my hanger hole, thread through the hole. And then I'm creating kind of a hook shape. I'm going to get you on this other camera because I think it'll be better. No. So, thread through the hole, create a hook shape. I know that wire's hard to see, but it really is there. Then, put the ornament on the hook. And to start with, this is why it's nice to have this a little longer than what you need. Just twist these together para mano. Just twist them together by hand like that. And then before you do anything else, give that a little double check. The double check being vertically, is it hanging in the opening where you want it to be? If you would like that to be lower, this is your opportunity to do that by using a longer piece of wire. And right now it'd be very easy to undo this, give that a little bit more reach, redo it. Do another double check. I like that a little better, a little more space at the top. Once you're happy as a clam, which is a weird expression, then get a pair of needle nose on there and give that just a little bit more robust of a twist to make sure that stays. And then last step on those with a pair of side cutters. That wire's sticking out about 3/4 of an inch right now. I'm going to clip some of that off. And again, that's the back side. So you can't see the bundle of wires from the front. And then from there, the next 2 spaces, it's rinse and repeat. What do you think? I think a couple things. One, today at 4 o'clock is the normal monthly Q&A. 4 o'clock Central Time, same bat time, same bat station. I'll still be here. And then that's where just bring your questions and I will try to bring some answers. 2, Jess, there we go. Jess put up a link for a project gallery. So that's in the chat roll. You can go there. That would be crazy cool to post pictures of what you have done, whether it's related to WWGOA projects or not. You can post pictures of your projects there. So that's neat. Don't forget, the PDF is a must-have companion for this because it gives you the oval shapes and it gives you all the numbers that you need to get these cutouts in the right spot. So the PDF is really, really important. And again, what I said at the top of this is thanks to Greg, who's the smart guy that creates the PDFs, you have to, when you print that, you have to make sure you check the box that says print actual size or something similar. Otherwise, the ovals are going to come out the wrong size. When you check print actual size, you'll get them the right size. Okay. I will tap dance for 30 more seconds. We'll see if any more questions on this thing come in. And Jess has put the link for the live Q&A in the chat roll. So let me give you your like decorating options again. The one that we're looking at right now, that I have the single ornament in, that's rattle can black Rust-Oleum on the base, green dye here, RIT dye right off the shelf at a grocery store, top coated with rattle can lacquer after the dye is dry. So it gives you kind of a translucent green that you can see the grain to, which is interesting. Then another alternative would be, no. This is made from poplar. Poplar paints really, really, really well. The grain doesn't raise. Painted with a rattle can of Rust-Oleum green. So obviously just paint grade in this particular case. Or my personal preference, I really like the prismatic balls and I really like figured wood for this. I think this is a great spot. It's a great project to really highlight something like this, which is ambrosia maple, or something like this, which is curly maple. 3/4 inch stock throughout. So nothing weird about that. All right. You ready to have a holly jolly Christmas? Once again, 4 o'clock today, Q&A. Link is in the chat roll, or it's at the same spot where you always find the live Q&As. Other than that, enjoy the tree project. You've got time between now and Christmas, but don't dawdle, don't make this a last minute thing. And yeah, throw your pictures up in the gallery so that we can see what you do. Other than that, Oh, and Jess has put the link for the prismatic balls is also in the chat roll. So that's there. And I will say, because you touch these things when you put them on. So what I do is I go through the hanging process. Then I go back with glass cleaner and I clean them because just the oil from your hands kind of mucks them up. And a little cleaning after you've touched them makes a huge difference in their prismatic ability, or whatever that word would be, how prismatic they are. They look way better when they're nice and clean. All right. Other than that, we are set. See you at 4 o'clock if you're coming at 4 o'clock.